There's something pulling at you, isn't there? Not physically, though sometimes it feels that way. It's deeper than that. It's the restless feeling that wakes you up at 3 a.m. wondering if this is really your life. The quiet voice that whispers during your commute, is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? The magnetic pull towards something you can't name, something that feels important but remains frustratingly out of reach. You felt it in fleeting moments, when you're doing something that makes time disappear, when you help someone and feel truly useful, when you create something that surprises even you. For just a moment, everything aligns. You feel pulled into place, like a puzzle piece finding its spot. But then Monday comes, or doubt creeps in, or practical concerns take over, and that pull gets buried under shoulds and haves, and the endless noise of other people's expectations. Maybe you've tried following other people's blueprints for purpose. You've read the books, taken the personality tests, asked yourself what you'd do if money wasn't an object. But purpose isn't something you think your way into. It's not a career choice or a life plan or a mission statement you craft in a weekend workshop. Purpose is a force, like gravity itself, invisible, constant, inescapable. It's not something you find like a hidden treasure. It's something that finds you, pulls you, shapes your path even when you're not paying attention. But here's what makes it confusing. You can't see gravity. You can only see its effects. An apple falls, planets orbit, tides rise and fall. The force itself remains invisible, working through attraction, through the fundamental tendency of things to move toward what they're drawn to. Your purpose works the same way. You can't see it directly. You can only notice what you're drawn to, what pulls at you, what you keep circling back to even when you try to ignore it. The people whose problems you can't help but want to solve. The injustices that make your heart race. The beauty that stops you in your tracks. The conversations that energize you while others drain you. These aren't random attractions. They're your personal gravity at work. But we live in a culture that treats purpose like it should be obvious, immediate, profitable. Like you should know by age 22 exactly what you're meant to do with your life. Like purpose should arrive with clear instructions and a guaranteed income. When it doesn't work that way, when purpose feels mysterious or impractical or keeps evolving, we assume we're broken. We assume everyone else has figured out something we've missed. Well, that's not true. What if purpose isn't supposed to be clear and simple and immediately actionable? What if purpose works more like the gravity that holds galaxies together, vast, patient, working on timescales longer than human planning, pulling you toward becoming who you're meant to be through forces you're only beginning to understand? Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to explore 5 ways your search for purpose mirrors the gravitational forces that govern the cosmos. 1. The invisible force that shapes everything. Why you can't see your purpose directly, just like gravity itself remained invisible to humans for millennia, even though it shapes everything from falling apples to orbiting planets. Your purpose works through effects you can observe. What draws you, what energizes you, what you keep circling back to. 2. The pull toward your true mass, how your authentic mass creates its own gravitational field. You don't need to become more impressive to matter. You need to become more concentrated in who you already are. Like neutron stars that pack incredible density into small spaces, your authentic presence already pulls people and opportunities into your orbit. 3. Orbital patterns and life direction. Why you keep returning to the same themes and interests. This isn't evidence of confusion. It's orbital mechanics. Just as planets don't travel in straight lines, but follow elliptical paths that bring them back to familiar territory with new perspective, your purpose operates in cycles that deepen your relationship with your core calling. For tidal forces and timing, the rhythms are when your purpose feels crystal clear and actionable and when it seems to recede beyond your reach. Like the moon creating high and low tides, your calling operates on rhythms larger than your immediate desires, preparing you for contributions you couldn't handle earlier. 5. Escape velocity and authentic action. Why taking authentic action feels impossibly hard, and how the physics of escape velocity reveals why small, comfortable changes rarely create the fundamental shift your purpose requires, and what it actually takes to break free into an orbit that honors who you're meant to become. We're going to discover that your restlessness isn't a problem to solve. It's a compass pointing toward your authentic pull. Your confusion isn't evidence that you're lost. It's evidence that you're sensitive to forces others might miss. We're going to see that finding your purpose isn't about having a lightning bolt moment of clarity. It's about learning to trust the pull you feel, to follow the gravitational forces of your authentic self, to let yourself be drawn toward what you're meant to become. Because just as gravity shapes everything from falling leaves to swirling galaxies, your purpose is already shaping your life. The question isn't whether you have a purpose. You do. The question is, are you paying attention to what you're being pulled toward? Number 1, the invisible force that shapes everything. Let's start with the most frustrating part. You can't see your purpose. Everyone talks about finding your purpose like it's a thing you can locate, a treasure waiting to be discovered, a clear answer to the question, what should I do with my life? But you've looked everywhere. You've searched inside yourself, analyzed your strengths, examined your passions, and still nothing definitive. No burning bush moment. No obvious calling. Just this persistent feeling that you're meant for something, coupled with the maddening inability to see exactly what that something is. So you start to doubt. Maybe you don't have a purpose. Maybe purpose is just something other people have. Those lucky ones who knew from childhood they wanted to be doctors or teachers or entrepreneurs. Maybe you're just drifting while everyone else is following their North Star. But here's what's fascinating about gravity. For most of human history, we couldn't see it either. We could see its effects everywhere. Apples fell down, never up. The moon circled Earth in a predictable pattern. Tides rose and fell with mysterious regularity. But the force causing all this? Invisible, undetectable. For thousands of years, the most fundamental force shaping our reality remained completely hidden from direct observation. It wasn't until Einstein that we understood gravity isn't really a force pulling objects together. It's the curvature of space-time itself. Matter bends space, and objects follow the curves. What we experience as the pull of gravity is actually everything in the universe following the path of least resistance through curved dimensions we can't directly perceive. Your purpose works the same way. You can't see purpose itself, but you can see its effects everywhere in your life. Notice what you're naturally drawn to, what problems you can't help but want to solve, what injustices make your heart race, what beauty stops you in your tracks. What conversations energize you while others drain you? What activities make time disappear? These aren't random preferences. They're the effects of your personal gravity. The way your authentic self curves the space around you, drawing certain experiences, people, and opportunities into your orbit while others pass by unnoticed. That restless feeling you have? That's not evidence that you lack purpose. That's evidence that your purpose is too big for where you currently are. Like a plant growing toward light, you feel the pull toward something larger than your current circumstances can contain. The confusion about what exactly you should do? That's not a bug in your system. It's a feature. Purpose isn't meant to be reducible to a single career choice or life plan. Your purpose is the entire gravitational field of your authentic being. It influences everything: how you treat people, what you pay attention to, how you show up in the world, what you create, how you love. You think you need to see your purpose clearly before you can follow it. But that's like insisting you need to see gravity before you can walk. You don't see gravity. You trust it, work with it, let it support you as you move through the world. The people who seem to have found their purpose haven't necessarily seen something you haven't. They've learned to trust their personal gravity. They've stopped demanding that purpose look like a clear career path and started paying attention to what they're consistently drawn to. They notice that they always end up in conversations about mental health, so they stop fighting it and find ways to make that their work. They realize they're naturally drawn to helping people organize their lives, so they build a business around that magnetic pull. They can't stop thinking about environmental issues, so they let that gravitational force shape their choices. Your purpose isn't hiding from you. It's operating on you right now, pulling you toward experiences that will develop the capacities you need, draw you toward people who need what you have to give, creating the circumstances that will allow you to become who you're meant to be. The question isn't what's my purpose? The question is, what am I being pulled toward? And then, am I trusting that pull enough to follow it? Stop trying to see your purpose and start trusting its effects. Stop demanding a clear destination and start following the gravitational pull of your authentic interests, your natural curiosities, your persistent concerns. Like gravity itself, your purpose is invisible but absolutely real. It's shaping your path whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is whether you're going to work with it or exhaust yourself fighting against it. Number 2, the pull toward your true mass here is something that cuts deep. The fear that you're not substantial enough to have a real purpose. You look at people doing important work, changing lives, creating beauty, solving problems, leading movements, and they seem to have some kind of weight to them, some gravitas, some mass that draws others into their orbit. Then you look at yourself and feel lightweight, ordinary, like you don't have enough substance to pull anything or anyone toward you. The inner voice is relentless. Who am I to think I have something important to contribute? I'm just one person among billions. I don't have any special talents, any unique insights, any platform or influence. What could I possibly have to offer that would matter in the grand scheme of things? So you wait. You wait to become more substantial before you start taking your pull seriously. You wait to gain more experience, more credentials, more confidence. You wait until you feel like you have enough mass to create your own gravitational field. But here's what's extraordinary about gravity. Every object with mass creates a gravitational field. Every single one. No exceptions. Your coffee mug pulls on the International Space Station. The space station pulls on your coffee mug. The effect is infinitesimal, practically immeasurable, but it's real. It's there. It never stops. Right now, as you listen to this, you are gravitationally connected to every other mass in the universe, no matter how distant, no matter how small. Mass isn't about size. A neutron star the size of a city has more gravitational pull than a planet. A black hole might be smaller than Earth, but bends space-time so dramatically that not even light can escape its pull. It's not about how much space you take up. It's about density, authenticity, the concentrated reality of what you actually are. Your purpose isn't about becoming bigger or more impressive. It's about becoming more yourself, more concentrated in your authentic being, more dense with genuine experience, real understanding, true caring. Think about the people who have influenced you most profoundly. Were they the most famous, the most successful, the most obviously important? Or were they people who had developed the authentic mass of their being? Teachers who really cared, friends who really listened, artists who created from real experience, leaders who serve from genuine conviction? You already have mass. You already create a gravitational field. People are drawn to your specific combination of experiences, perspectives, ways of seeing and being in the world. They might not be able to articulate why, but they feel your pull, your particular way of making them feel understood, challenged, comforted, inspired. The problem isn't that you lack mass. The problem is that you're comparing your internal experience to other people's external presentations. You feel your own uncertainty, your ongoing questions, your areas of ignorance. But what others experience is your gravitational effect. The way your authentic presence influences their orbit, That friend who always comes to you when they need to think through a problem, you're pulling them toward clarity. That colleague who seems more creative when they're around you, you're pulling them toward their own innovative potential. That family member who feels more hopeful after talking with you, you're pulling them toward possibility. You don't need permission to start taking your gravitational pull seriously. You don't need to wait until you feel more substantial. You need to start paying attention to what and who you naturally draw toward you and what you're consistently drawn toward yourself. Your purpose isn't about becoming someone else with more obvious mass. It's about developing the density of who you already are. It's about becoming more concentrated in your authentic caring, more focused in your genuine interests, more consistent in acting from your true values. Every time you show up authentically, you increase your gravitational pull. Every time you develop a skill that serves something you care about, you add mass to your purpose. Every time you choose courage over comfort, truth over convenience, service over self-protection, you become more dense with the kind of substance that creates lasting influence. The universe doesn't care about your resume or your social media following or how impressive your goals sound to other people. The universe responds to the authenticity of your being, the genuine mass of your caring, the real density of your commitment to becoming who you're meant to be. You already have gravitational pull. The question isn't whether you're substantial enough to matter. You are. The question is, are you paying attention to your authentic mass? Are you developing the density of your genuine self? Are you trusting that your specific way of being in the world creates its own necessary gravitational field? Stop waiting to feel more important. Start honoring the pull you already create. Your purpose isn't about becoming massive enough to matter. It's about becoming authentic enough to trust the mass you already have. Number 3, orbital patterns and life direction. Here's what drives you crazy. You keep circling back to the same things. You think you've moved on from that old dream, that persistent interest, that way of wanting to contribute to the world. You've been practical. You pursued realistic paths. You followed other people's advice about what you should focus on. But somehow, you keep finding yourself drawn back to the same core themes, the same types of problems, the same kinds of people and situations. It feels like failure, like you're going in circles instead of moving forward, like you can't commit to anything or follow through on the right direction. You compare yourself to people who seem to move in straight lines toward clear goals, and you wonder what's wrong with you that you keep returning to familiar territory instead of breaking free into something completely new. But here's what's beautiful about orbital mechanics. Nothing in the universe moves in straight lines. Every planet, every moon, every comet, every galaxy follows an orbital path. Earth doesn't travel in a straight line away from the sun. It circles back to the same relative position every 365 days. But each orbit isn't identical. Earth's orbit is actually an ellipse, and even that ellipse shifts over time. Each return brings us back to familiar territory from a slightly different angle, at a slightly different distance, with slightly different conditions. This isn't evidence that Earth is stuck or going nowhere. This is how celestial bodies maintain their relationship with the forces that give their movement meaning and stability. Your purpose works the same way. Those themes you keep returning to, those interests that won't leave you alone, those problems you can't stop caring about, they're not evidence that you're stuck. They're evidence that you've found your orbital pattern. You've discovered the central gravitational pull of your authentic purpose, and you're learning to dance with it. Each time you circle back, you bring new experience, deeper understanding, different skills. That passion for teaching that you thought you'd outgrown, when it pulls you back, you have life experience your younger self didn't possess. That concern for social justice that you try to be practical about, when it resurfaces, you have professional skills you can now apply to it. You're not going in circles. You're spiraling deeper into your purpose, approaching the same core themes from increasingly sophisticated angles. Think about it. Would you want to live in a universe where Earth shot off in a straight line away from the sun? Would that be progress? Or would that be the end of seasons, the end of life-giving warmth, the end of everything that makes our planet habitable? Orbital patterns aren't limitations. They're the structure that allows sustained relationship with life-giving forces. Your career might take you in different directions. Your circumstances will certainly change. But if you pay attention, you'll notice the underlying orbital pattern. The teacher becomes a parent who creates learning environments at home. The would-be artist becomes a therapist who helps people craft new narratives for their lives. The environmental activist becomes an urban planner who designs sustainable communities. Different expressions, same gravitational center. But here's what makes human orbits different from planetary ones. You get to consciously participate in your orbital pattern. You get to notice what you're circling around and choose how close or distant you want to be from your central purpose. You get to adjust your orbit based on what you've learned from previous cycles. Maybe the first time around, you approached your purpose too directly and got burned out. The second time, you swung too far away and felt disconnected. The third time, you found a sustainable distance that allows you to maintain relationship with your purpose without being consumed by it. This is mastery. This is what it looks like to mature into your purpose. Not to find it once and follow in a straight line forever, but to develop an increasingly sophisticated relationship with the gravitational center of your authentic self. Those people who seem to move in straight lines toward their goals? Look closer. Most of them are also following orbital patterns, but they've learned to see the spiral nature of their path as progress rather than regression. They've learned to trust that coming back to familiar themes from new angles is how deep purpose develops over time. Your purpose isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a gravitational center you learn to orbit with increasing skill and wisdom. Each return teaches you something new about both your purpose and yourself. Each cycle offers opportunities to contribute in ways you couldn't before. Stop judging your orbital pattern as evidence of failure or confusion. Start seeing it as evidence that you've identified something worth circling around, something substantial enough to organize your life around, something that can sustain your interest and engagement across multiple cycles of return. Your purpose isn't pulling you forward in a straight line. It's pulling you into a dance of deepening relationship with your authentic self. Number 4, tidal forces and timing. Here's what makes you doubt everything. The timing never feels right. You have these moments when your purpose feels crystal clear, when you know exactly what you want to contribute and how you want to serve. You make plans, set goals, feel the pull so strongly it seems like nothing could possibly stop you. But then life happens. Responsibilities pile up. Other people's needs take priority. The practical realities of rent and relationships and running a household crowd out your deeper callings. Or worse, you're finally ready to act on your purpose, but the world doesn't seem ready for you. The job market is wrong. The funding isn't there. The people who could help you are busy with other things. You feel like you're pushing against invisible resistance, like you're trying to swim upstream against forces you can't control or predict. So you start to believe that either you don't really have a purpose, or your purpose isn't meant for this lifetime, or you're just too late, or too early, or too something to make it work. But here's what's extraordinary about tidal forces. They create the rhythm that makes life on Earth possible. The moon's gravitational pull doesn't just create ocean tides. It creates the breathing rhythm of our entire planet. Twice a day, every day, for billions of years, the waters have been pulled higher and released, pulled higher and released. This isn't chaos. This isn't poor timing. This is a fundamental rhythm that has allowed life to flourish. High tide brings nutrients from the deep ocean to coastal ecosystems. Low tide exposes tidal pools where new forms of life can develop. The rhythm between the two creates the conditions where evolution happens, where adaptation becomes possible, where life learns to thrive in the space between extremes. Your purpose operates on tidal forces too. There are times when your purpose pulls strongly at your life. High tide moments when opportunities align, when your inner clarity matches outer possibilities, when you feel drawn irresistibly toward authentic action. These are the times to move, to commit, to let yourself be pulled into fuller expression of who you're meant to be. But there are also low tide moments when your purpose seems to recede, when practical concerns take priority, when you need to tend to the infrastructure of your life. These aren't failures or delays. These are essential periods when you develop the skills, relationships, and stability that will allow you to handle the next high tide with greater capacity. The mistake is thinking you should be at high tide all the time, that you should always feel the full pull of your purpose, always be moving toward bigger expressions of your calling, always be ready to sacrifice everything for your deeper mission. But sustainable purpose requires rhythm. It requires periods of intense engagement alternating with periods of integration, rest, and building capacity for what's next. Maybe you felt called to start that nonprofit in your 20s, but you weren't ready for the leadership challenges it would involve. So life pulled you into corporate work where you learned project management, team building, and organizational development. Now you're in your 30s with skills your younger self didn't have, and the call to serve is returning, but at a level you can actually handle. Maybe you want to be a writer, but you weren't ready to write about anything that mattered. So you spent years raising children, navigating difficult relationships, facing health challenges, processing loss. Now you have something to say that your earlier self couldn't have imagined, depth that only comes from living to the full spectrum of human experience. The timing wasn't wrong. You were developing the capacity to handle your purpose at a deeper level. This doesn't mean you should passively wait for the perfect moment. Tidal forces require you to pay attention, to recognize high tide when it comes, to be ready to act when the pull is strongest. But it also means trusting that low tide periods aren't evidence that your purpose has abandoned you. They're preparation for the next cycle of possibility. Your purpose isn't on a human timeline. It's on a cosmic timeline, working with forces larger than your immediate desires or career ambitions. Like the moon pulling at the oceans, your authentic calling is working on your life in rhythms that span years or decades, creating conditions for your fullest contribution over the course of your entire lifetime. The key is learning to recognize which tide you're in and how to work with it. High tide. Move boldly, trust the pull, let yourself be drawn into action. Low tide. Build capacity, develop skills, tend relationships, restore your energy for what's coming next. Stop fighting the rhythm. Stop judging low tide as failure or delay. Start seeing your purpose as working on tidal forces that are perfectly timed for your long-term development into the person who can handle your fullest contribution. Your purpose isn't late. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be in the rhythm of becoming who you're meant to become. Number 5, escape velocity and authentic action. Here's the final challenge. Taking action feels impossibly hard. You know what you're drawn to. You've identified your gravitational center. Recognize your orbital patterns. Learn to work with your tidal rhythms. But when it comes to actually doing something about it, actually making the changes, taking the risks, committing to a path that honors your authentic pull, you feel stuck. It's not lack of motivation. You have plenty of that. It's not lack of clarity. You can see what you need to do. It's something heavier, more fundamental. It's like you're trapped in the gravity well of your current life. And no matter how much you want to break free into something more aligned with your purpose, the pull of your existing commitments, expectations, and fears keeps you exactly where you are. So you make small moves that don't really change anything. You take half steps that let you feel like you're progressing without actually escaping the orbit of your comfortable limitations. You research your dreams instead of pursuing them. You plan for someday instead of acting today. But here's what's fascinating about escape velocity. It's not about strength. It's about understanding the physics of breaking free. To escape Earth's gravitational pull, a rocket needs to reach about 25,000 miles per hour. That sounds impossibly fast, impossibly difficult. But it's not about sustaining that speed, it's about reaching it. Once you hit escape velocity, you don't need to keep accelerating. The momentum carries you beyond the pull of the gravitational field you're trying to leave behind. Your purpose requires the same kind of breakthrough thinking. You don't need to sustain massive effort indefinitely. You need to understand what escape velocity looks like for your specific situation and commit to reaching it, even if it requires intense effort for a relatively short period. Maybe escape velocity means saving enough money to take 6 months off to develop your art. Maybe it means having one difficult conversation that changes the entire dynamic of your relationship. Maybe it means committing to a course of study that will give you credentials in the field you actually care about. Maybe it means moving to a place where your authentic self can flourish. The key insight is that gradual change often isn't enough to escape the gravitational pull of your current circumstances. Your job, your social circle, your daily routines, your family expectations. They all create gravitational fields that keep pulling you back into familiar patterns. Small adjustments within these fields feel manageable, but they rarely create the kind of fundamental shift that aligns your life with your purpose. This is why New Year's resolutions usually fail. You're trying to orbit slightly differently within the same gravitational field. But your current life is designed to support your current self, not the person your purpose is calling you to become. Escape velocity requires you to identify the minimum viable change that would fundamentally alter your gravitational environment, not the most comfortable change, not the most socially acceptable change, but the change that would actually pull you into a different orbit around your authentic self. This might mean leaving relationships that no longer reflect who you're becoming. It might mean changing careers, even when you can't guarantee the outcome. It might mean disappointing people who are invested in you staying exactly as you are. It might mean facing fears about your own capacity to handle a life more aligned with your purpose. But here's what happens once you reach escape velocity. The struggle changes completely. Instead of fighting against gravitational pull that's keeping you stuck, you start working with gravitational pull that's drawing you toward who you're meant to become. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to make incremental changes within limiting circumstances, you find yourself in an environment where authentic action becomes natural, even inevitable. The people who seem to live their purpose effortlessly haven't eliminated the need for effort. They reached escape velocity from circumstances that were pulling them away from their authentic selves, and now they're working within gravitational fields that support their deepest callings. This doesn't mean you should make reckless changes or ignore your responsibilities. It means getting honest about what escape velocity would actually require in your situation, and then committing to reaching it rather than staying comfortable in an orbit that no longer serves your growth. Your purpose isn't asking you to struggle forever against circumstances that don't support it. Your purpose is asking you to understand the physics of authentic change and apply enough focused energy to escape gravitational fields that are holding you back. The universe is full of objects that have achieved escape velocity, comets that break free from the outer reaches of solar systems, stars that are ejected from their home galaxies, spacecraft that leave Earth orbit to explore the cosmos. None of them accomplish this through gradual, comfortable adjustments. What would escape velocity look like for you? And are you ready to reach it? So here we are, 30 minutes later, and maybe something has shifted in how you understand the pull you feel. Maybe you're beginning to see that your purpose isn't something you need to find. It's a gravitational force that's been operating on your life all along. That invisible pull you feel towards certain kinds of people, problems, and possibilities, that's not wishful thinking or impractical dreaming. That's your authentic mass creating its own gravitational field, drawing you toward what you're meant to become. Maybe you're starting to trust that you don't need to see your purpose clearly before you can follow it. Just like you don't need to see gravity to trust it. You don't need to understand your purpose completely to begin working with its effects. You can follow what you're drawn to. Trust what keeps pulling at you. Pay attention to what consistently calls your name across years and changing circumstances. Maybe you're recognizing that those themes you keep circling back to aren't evidence of confusion or inability to commit. They're evidence that you found your orbital center, the gravitational pull strong enough to organize your life around, stable enough to return to a deepening wisdom and skill. Maybe you're feeling less frustrated with the timing of your calling, understanding that purpose operates on tidal forces, that there are seasons for action and seasons for building capacity, that the rhythm between high tide and low tide creates the conditions where authentic contribution becomes possible. And maybe, just maybe, you're ready to consider what escape velocity might look like in your life. Ready to stop making comfortable adjustments within circumstances that don't support your authentic self, and start applying the focused energy needed to break free into an orbit that honors who you're meant to become. The universe operates on gravitational forces that are invisible but absolutely real, working on scales larger than human planning, pulling everything toward what it's meant to become through attraction rather than force. Your purpose works the same way. You don't have to manufacture your calling or convince yourself to care about something important. You just have to pay attention to what you're already being pulled toward and trust that pull enough to follow it. Your restlessness isn't a problem to solve. It's information about gravitational forces operating on your life. Your confusion isn't evidence that you lack direction. It's evidence that your purpose is larger than any single career choice or life plan. You have mass. You create gravitational effects. You're already pulling people and opportunities and experiences into your orbit through the authenticity of your being. The question isn't whether you have a purpose. You do. The question is, are you ready to trust your gravitational truth and let it reshape your life? Where are you being pulled toward? Before you return to your day, before you get caught up again in the practical demands of life, I want to leave you with a question. Not a question you have to answer right now, but one you can carry with you like a compass that points toward your truest north. Tonight, when you have a quiet moment, maybe as you're falling asleep, maybe during your morning coffee, maybe in the space between one activity and the next, ask yourself, if my purpose operates like gravity, always pulling me toward what I'm meant to become, then what am I being pulled toward right now? Not what you think you should be pulled toward, not what would be practical or impressive or safe, but what actually tugs at you when you're not trying to be reasonable. What problems keep showing up in your awareness? What kind of people do you find yourself naturally wanting to help? What activities make you lose track of time? What conversations light you up from the inside? And then, even more importantly, what would it look like to trust that pull enough to take one real step toward it? You are not separate from the forces that govern galaxies and guide planets in their orbits. The same gravitational principles that hold the cosmos together are working in your life right now, pulling you toward your authentic becoming. What if you trusted that pull enough to follow it?